Hi, I'm Jake Hafner from Civil Life Brewing Company in Tower Grove South in St. Louis, and we've been open since 2011.
I'm Dylan Mosley. I am head brewer here since we opened, and came into Civil Life through homebrewing as a hobby.
My beer journey starts probably in 1996 at a pub in New York, and it just kind of went on from there. And I opened a wine bar in 2001 that had a great beer selection. Dylan started working at 33 in about 5 years or 6 years after we opened. And though I was into beer at that time, I think Dylan kind of inspired me to get much further into beer just from the way that he ran the beer list and the exposure to all the new beers that were coming to St. Louis at the time.
And it's somewhat easy to say what got me interested in beer. And it was a grocery store that simply had a selection of beer that I had never seen before. This was in the early 90s. And it was simply just something that I didn't know existed. And that's happened to me a few times in my life. I've come across topics that were just infinitely broader than I ever would have thought. I mean, all things are, but it was put in front of me. And that's really what it.
My favorite Civil Life beer is probably the beer that went on tap the most recent. From a brewery standpoint and odor standpoint, my favorite beer is the American Brown because it pays the bills. But here at the pub, you'll find me drinking Bird on Holt, ESB. In the summer, we'll really get into the lagers too with our Dortmunder and our Czech Pilsner now, which is available year-round too. But we make a great range of moderate ABV beers that we enjoy all year round.
And I think my favorite beer in a lot of ways is the American Brown as well, but mainly because it kind of sums up so much about what I think about other Civil Life beers, all in one pint. And while some other beers may get a lot of traction for me at various times of the year, like Jake mentioned, our lagers right now, the brown beer is something that I always kind of reflect on and think about how even very different beers like the Czech lager, how it may fit in with things like the American Brown. And I'm just really taken by the idea that the American Brown has, for our company on our level, done so very well and has been so well received. And it's almost like when you build like a park and then all of a sudden you get a bunch of skateboarders in that you hadn't intended, but they're finding joy there too. And if you're okay with their skating in your park, it's more the merrier, you know, right? So I don't know. I felt like the Brown has really opened a lot of doors for me.
I think we stand out in a way because of our ethos is this moderate ABV sessionable type ale. And I think we've done such a great job of making a wide range of beers that are approachable. And then I think the other thing that makes us unique is just the pub environment that we've created here and the amount of effort we put into the pub experience, whether it was outside on our patio or having a pint inside, and what that means to partake in a pub culture. I think that's areas that we really kind of excel at.
Yeah, and I'll I'm afraid I have to admit I'm not sure what makes us stand out. In fact, but what I would want for, you know, the things I would want to stand out for would be that, you know, I really feel like the brewery team here is real close and very communicative and on the same page. And even when we're not, we work real well together. And I think sometimes, like, just even having that gel inside of the beer somehow comes out. I don't know that it always does, but I think that, you know, the relationships that we've built here come out the other end. So.
All right. Outside of Civil Life, and this is probably the hardest question you could give us, is what's our favorite beer? But I find myself gravitating towards some of the sours that Perennial does. At second shift, I think Steve just does outstanding job across the board, but his hoppy beers really are solid. And then it's like hard not to mention, Narrow Gauge or, Corey at Side Project. But we're real fortunate in this town to have so many great breweries, and you can go to any brewery and find a favorite pint, as I do.
Yeah, I mean, it does get down to real difficult decisions when you have pointed questions like that. But um, one of my favorite breweries in the area is Scratch. They've made a lot of really, really compelling beers. And one night I was having a beer with my wife, and I think it was a beer that had mushrooms in it. And to be quite honest, there was a point where I'd never had a beer with mushrooms in it, and I didn't know what I was looking for. And I almost felt like I must be on a similar journey as finding the mushrooms themselves, And so it seemed like a similar path. And that was one of the most brutally conceptual beers I've ever drank in my whole life. And it was really fun because I don't know what I found. And but I feel like I ended up somewhere.
So we've been doing this in our 13th year now, and I think what I enjoy the most still is coming into the pub and serving pints to people. And I think that's just something that still keeps me going after all these years. And to feel it's been a struggle as of a few years past, but to feel the support of the customer base really has kind of pulled us through. And I think that's all what I'm most thankful for, and always what I'm most excited about is just coming in and seeing people here enjoying the space that we all created.
Yeah, and it seems like all my answers are just another reflection of what Jake just said. But the thing I enjoy most about what happens out in the brewery is that there's still a huge feeling of that being a very analog experience in a kind of a more digital age. And there's so much about brewing that is becoming digital that having the fact that you can't remove certain attributes that are like from the ground, grain and hops and water, yeast, having those things like as touchstones, like you can't make beer without those things. They're part of it. But then there's this whole other aspect of beer brewing that is becoming digital and becoming different, and almost to the point where like you're getting down into these like micro styles that people are getting really excited about, and so it's really cool that you can take a tradition that's ancient and you can look at it through the lens of today, and it's still exciting for people. That's really cool. I think honestly at this point the craziest thing that I've seen in beer is not putting crazy in. That is really a lot of times when I go out looking for beer, I feel very hammered as a customer to have all these suitors on the shelves, vying for my attention, and a lot of times it bounces off me a little bit. Maybe because of my age, maybe because of my profession. It's hard to say, but when it comes down to like making those choices, sometimes I then gravitate toward less crazy, and sometimes the excitement and the exuberance and the reality show of it all, what seemed new isn't new at all anymore. And so I think maybe the craziest thing is the least crazy, because how do you market that?
It's interesting. You asked the question of two guys that don't follow trends. What's the trend, and what are we crazy about?
This shirt's pretty trendy.
Yeah, right. It's like when my daughter said my favorite color was gray. But it's a tough thing. We've seen all these things come through, seltzers and the intensely, the hazy IPAs and the sours, and we've just continued doing what we do because there's styles that fit with us. But to each his own in the brewing world too, which I absolutely love too, is that there's places for everybody, and we still get people that come in that are looking for beers we don't make, and I think that's great too. It's just not what we do, but yeah. So it's kind of hard to be like, I guess I've never really chased any trends, but I also have respect for the process and what that involves, because it does bring a lot of people into beer, and then when you're done with all that, you come here and you have cask beers, and you have traditional. For people just new to exploring the St. Louis beer scene, we're rich in history here, and rich in good people too. I think the best thing to do is to find a pub quickly and then start asking questions to your bartenders. And the bartenders often direct people to where their favorite pubs are, and that really works for breweries too. So a lot of us send, you end up at our place, and we're sending you to breweries down the road too to see them, and that's always the best advice I can give someone.
Yeah, I agree. The cool thing about St. Louis breweries is we're kind of located all over the place. So no matter where you're at in the city, where it is that you happen to be staying, there are going to be breweries close to you, and you would be in a deep thicket of St. Louis where there wasn't a brewery around, and so I think just having some place to set up base, if plans fall through somewhere else, you can head right back there. But yeah, bartenders for sure are always going to be your friend, no matter what city you're in.
I think it's an exciting time to be a beer drinker in St. Louis, with so many breweries. So many people live within walking distance of a brewery now, and it's kind of really cool how the landscape's changed over the last 12 years, and how we play a role in it. But then, the people that just, Blue Jay just opened, and they play a role in it. And I think that's the best thing, is to get out there and explore the city, the neighborhoods, and the breweries that call them home.
Yeah. And I think too, it's always, it's good to know what you like, that there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with knowing that I like this kind of beer, and that's the kind of beer I reach for. But I also will always think it's equally important to try things, and to let those things not always work. Both maybe from the brewery side of things, and maybe on your own end, I've been talking to my wife a lot about like these music lists that we're curating through a few different apps, personally. And what I find sometimes is that I'll open up the app, and all of a sudden I'm like, yeah, this music totally is my music. It's totally what I would listen to. But then I think about that, and I'm like, is that can I really be boiled down like that all the time? Like it almost gets a little upsetting to me that I can like spot myself. And so I still like trying new things with beer, even if it wasn't meant to be, because it makes me kind of go back to some of the things that I have enjoyed. It makes me reevaluate those.
I think that's beer is life.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.